Today, we're diving into the 1950s with the Gill-Man himself. It's the original, influential Creature from the Black Lagoon. The last of Universal's classic monsters swam its way to the silver screen through unexpected waters that included King Kong, two completely separate shoots, and a dinner party with Orson Welles. Famously filmed and released in 3D, dazzling underwater sequences were captured by new technology developed especially for this movie. The titular character's monstrous design continues to inspire creatives to this day, but how was it made, and how did they pull off those submerged scenes? At this point, Universal was also in a completely different phase of its history compared to the decade prior. The evolution of the studio rolled right through this missing link in mankind's earthly development. Don't be scared of that murky water. Let's take a dip and explore what's beneath the surface. In the Amazon, Dr. Carl Maia and his team discover a fossilized webbed claw that looks to point toward an undiscovered connection between humans and sea animals. He seeks help from an old student named Dr. David Reed and his girlfriend, Kay Lawrence. Reed specializes in ichthyology and gets his boss, Dr. Mark Williams, involved. Williams is eager to fund an expedition back to the Amazon so they can all find the rest of the humanoid skeleton. Meanwhile, at the discovery location, a creature with the same bone structure as the fossil crawls out of the water and kills a pair of Maia's workers. Soon, Williams' expedition arrives. They sail downriver in a rickety boat named Rita and start their work. When Kay is spotted by the creature swimming alone, it becomes infatuated with her and starts to make its presence known. Intrigue, death, and conflict follow. In our last State of the Studio address, we saw the legendary Laemmle family ousted from their own company when it went into debt in the mid-1930s. They were replaced by a suit from the Standard Capital Corporation named J. Cheever Cowden. He was the president and chairman of Universal's board of directors until 1946. Industrialist J. Arthur Rank took control that same year and eventually merged Universal with International Pictures to create the Universal International brand. The company's logo changed to reflect the new partnership. A focus on once more increasing the prestige of the studio took priority. Unfortunately, the films released during this period largely failed to return the investment. By the 1950s, Universal was under different leadership. This time it was Milton Rackmill and his company Decca Records who claimed full ownership. In 1952, the studio went back to producing the lower-budgeted films that were the staple of its identity for decades. It was in the early years of this new arrangement that our creature emerged from those signature dark waters. The genesis of the Black Lagoon lies with producer William Alland. Alland had the idea to combine elements from the 1925 silent adventure film The Lost World with a story he once heard at a dinner party. The future producer attended a gathering hosted by his colleague Orson Welles, where Mexican cinematographer Gabriel Figueroa told what he claimed to be the true story of a man-fish hybrid that took up residence in the Amazon River. Figueroa purported that he had seen a picture of this creature and that he could find it for proof. Alland never forgot that story and used it as inspiration for a new film. Many of the subsequent ideas he conceived fell in line with story beats from the 1933 film King Kong. One of his original endings for Black Lagoon bore a strong resemblance to Kong's finale and was used in the Gill-Man's first sequel. Alland brought in writer Maurice Zimm to expand the idea. Zimm wrote a 59-page initial draft just called Black Lagoon that was finished in December 1952. It had some of the same basic elements as the final film, but was quite different. For instance, the creature was known as the Pisces Man. Universal higher-ups saw potential in the screenplay, but it needed work. Another writer named Leo Lieberman attempted to punch it up for a couple months, failing to impress executives. The script was in such bad shape that the project was almost canceled before Alland turned to Arthur Ross for help. Ross got things back on track, with Harry Essex coming in for the finishing touches. Essex later said he added much of the story's Beauty and the Beast element, among other things. He was also the screenwriter of 1953's It Came from Outer Space. Essex is one of a few connections with that film. Its director, Jack Arnold, proved well suited to this new production. Both these movies also share a lead actor in Richard Carlson, a producer in William Alland, and the 3D gimmick. In need of a realistic location to double as the Amazon, the production team found Wakulla Springs in Florida to fit the bill. It had been used in MGM's Tarzan films and provided ideal visuals. Introducing them to the location was a college student by the name of Rico Browning. He was the subject of an underwater camera test there and impressed Universal with his swimming abilities so much that they hired him to play the creature for the underwater sequences. Originally, the studio wanted Glenn Strange to portray the Gill-Man. Strange was known for playing Frankenstein's monster a few times, but he turned down this monster, which is what led to Browning's casting. For the scenes above water, Ben Chapman was selected for his height. He dealt with the other main players directly. Neither Browning or Chapman were credited in the final movie. The look of the creature added another seminal design to Universal's roster of monsters, but it almost looked very different. Ed Mull, the head of production at the time, had a different vision of the character. It was smoother, less detailed, and slightly more human-like in appearance. This design was tested in the tank on the backlot, and it just didn't come across the right way on camera. There was a rumor circulating at the time that it was to be reutilized as a female creature in a future film, but that never materialized. Head of makeup in that era was Jack Pierce's replacement, Bud Westmore. He had a whole team working under him putting together the final look, but it was multi-talented artist Millicent Patrick who sketched the design that was eventually brought to life by sculptors and suit constructors Chris Mueller and Jack Keevan. They took full-body casts of both creature actors and built a flexible exterior shell, complete with a helmet-like head. Browning and Chapman weren't allowed to lose or gain weight during filming since the suits acted as an outer layer of skin. It would take 2 to 3 hours to apply in several different phases. They'd glue these foam rubber pieces to a full-body leotard that was already on the actor. In Browning's case, the glue would sometimes seep through and burn him. He was even given a few permanent scars by the process. However, you can't argue with the results. The Gill-Man remains an indelible piece of movie history. Production got underway in the fall of 1953, with 2 separate units shooting simultaneously. The main cast, including Ben Chapman as the creature, filmed everything on Universal's backlot. A combination of sets on hand and rear projection was used. This is where they implemented the Gill-Man's gliding walk that was achieved by placing 10-pound weights in Chapman's shoes. Also, that great-looking breathing effect was done with tubes inflating parts of a special head with compressed air, synchronized to the actor's performance. Obviously, it was difficult to see out of the helmet, and this would cause both creature actors to be led by flashlights to certain marks. The lack of proper vision did result in a small accident on set when Chapman was carrying a limp Julie Adams. He whacked her head right into some artificial rocks, resulting in a cut on her forehead. Filming resumed a short time later with makeup covering the wound. A regrettable incident, but Adams wasn't seriously hurt, and it did give us this candid behind-the-scenes picture of the actress being patched up, surrounded by her co-stars. Meanwhile, in Wakulla Springs, all the underwater scenes with Rico Browning were being filmed. The second unit was led by director James C. Havens, with Scotty Wellborn, credited as Charles S. Wellborn, handling the camera work. Havens wasn't trained for submerged shooting, so a lot of the creative decisions were left to Wellborn. Creature from the Black Lagoon featured about 18 minutes of underwater footage. During the shots with the Gill-Man, Browning would stay underwater for long periods of time. He was able to hold his breath for an extended span, but utilized tubes of air provided by several safety people in scuba gear. If he had to swim across camera, he'd take a breath from the hose, perform the scene, and take another breath at the opposite end of the frame. If he ever felt like he was running out of air, he'd go limp as a signal for the tubes to be brought to him immediately. The actors portraying David and Mark that he interacted with were played by other college students who loosely resembled the main actors' body types. Ginger Stanley was the underwater double for Kay. While operating as just the Black Lagoon through production, Universal looked to add to the title before release to maximize audience appeal and lean into the studio's monster legacy. After a few potential ideas were shot down, Creature from the Black Lagoon was chosen. The rest is history. After killing several more team members and nearly abducting Kay, the creature is captured by Mark and David. Reed pleads with his employer to not kill the specimen. Thus, they plan to bring it back to their research facility alive. However, it breaks out of its cage, seriously injuring another crew person before escaping a fiery demise. David and the remaining team members overrule a stubborn Mark and try to leave before more damage is incurred, but the creature has built a dam, blocking their exit from the lagoon. The doctors fight over how to handle the situation. Eventually, they both end up in a deep water war with the Gill-Man, where Mark is killed. Earlier, the creature seemed to be weakened by rotenone, so Reed loads up a dispenser to defend himself as he attempts to free Rita from the dam's entanglement. The substance deters the Gill-Man, and they're able to unshackle the boat, but the creature slips on board and steals Kay away. They emerge in a cave where David, Maya, and Captain Lucas finally take down the amphibious assailant and save Lawrence. Dying, the creature stumbles into the lagoon where it drifts underwater, devoid of life. Creature from the Black Lagoon premiered in February of 1954. By the time it rolled out to the masses, it became a huge success. There was a bit of a mixed response from critics at the time, but audiences went crazy for the Gill-Man, and he became the emblematic movie monster of the decade. The creature easily took his place alongside Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, and the others, contributing another iconic character to Universal's horror legacy. One of the main aspects that made Creature from the Black Lagoon unique was its heavily promoted use of 3D technology. This was all still very new in those days and developed as a way to combat the rising threat of television. While it certainly wasn't the first 3D movie, it was touted as the first to be shot underwater. Special equipment was created by Scotty Wellborn, giving the production a portable, lightweight camera rig to shoot the submerged scenes with. It contained a pair of interlocked cameras to capture two slightly different perspectives. Through polarizing filters, synchronized projectors overlapped the images in theaters. The audience would wear those famous polarized glasses to complete the full 3D effect. This was Jack Arnold's fourth feature film, but the third where he utilized 3D, so he was familiar with the process and a reliable choice for Universal. The studio considered shooting Creature in color. However, the combination of the 3D effect and color photography proved too expensive at the time. Still, audiences were blown away by their in-theater experience. They loved the underwater sequences in this emerging format. Taking the word of the people interviewed in the featurettes of the Blu-ray, it doesn't sound like you could really receive the full impact of this movie without seeing it on the big screen in 3D. There was an option to play the 3D version on the disc, but I didn't have the right setup to watch from home. Would it have greatly improved my viewing experience? Maybe. I'm not a big 3D guy myself, but I could see how this flick may have greatly benefited from that spectacle. Even without the 3D or big screen, Creature from the Black Lagoon features some incredible visual storytelling. I really love the opening prologue about the evolution of life on Earth.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Now, in their warm depths, the miracle of life begins.
Almost gave me some Twilight Zone vibes, which is never a bad thing. I also could have seen this as part of an old-school Disney nature documentary or something. While the underwater cinematography was great, my favorite sequence in the film was when the Gill-Man bursts into flames. Finding out how this was done was super cool. Over the shots of the creature was superimposed footage of a stuntman in a fire suit engulfed in a blaze. With all the movement in the scene, I couldn't tell at all until I slowed it down. Rewatching now, I can't unsee it, but that was a stroke of genius. I love how it looks. Apparently, those shots didn't work in 3D though. Because of the different positioning of the two subjects from the double camera setup, it looked like the creature and the stuntman were at unequal distances from the lens. The Gill-Man's best attack was the first one in the tent. Those actors sold their terror perfectly, and seeing that hand grab their faces, combined with the roars, screams, music, and violent commotion from outside, was the perfect way to set the monster up as a threat. It's probably the most horror-inducing scene in the movie, and we didn't even see his face yet. That dead hand sticking up out of the wreckage a few minutes later also does a lot to add a sense of lurking danger. Looking back at the cast, their performances were pretty good. They all served their purposes in the story. Julie Adams is an obvious standout. While this was really her only horror movie, she was tied directly to this franchise for the rest of her life. When it comes to the characters, I found myself on Mark's side a few times. His intentions were always less than pure, but when the bodies started to pile up, it was easy to understand why he wanted to take the creature down for good. David's more merciful approach to what the Gill-Man could mean to humanity's biological origins were solid for a while, but after they became trapped in the lagoon and the death count rose, I found his defense of the missing link less altruistic and more kind of dumb.
No more. Let him go. No.
The sort of unsubtle subtext was to make the creature out to be sympathetic. I just never felt all that sorry for him compared to characters like Frankenstein's monster or even the original Mummy. It's meant to be a don't mess with nature type of takeaway here, which I can still appreciate. These characters did invade his home, but the Gill-Man went on a pretty brutal killing spree. His fascination with Kay gave the character an interesting shade that fit nicely into that Beauty and the Beast trope. The only thing that irked me a bit was the pacing. It's a lot of waiting around for something to happen. The payoffs usually made up for that though. Some of the extended underwater scenes also went on for a little too long. Not a majority of them, but I think that just had to do with showcasing the 3D and delivering on the film's promotion in theaters. Another memorable piece of the puzzle was the creature's aggressive theme. It's played pretty much any time the Gill-Man is on screen, and it is unrelenting, being mixed in at a super high volume. Those three notes very clearly spelled trouble for our main characters. The cue was written by Herman Stein, but he wasn't the only composer on the project. Henry Mancini and Hans J. Salter also contributed to the score. Mancini wrote the more romantic and playful melodies, Stein handled the main titles, end credits, and the Kay Gill-Man swimming sequence, and Salter covered the horror elements, including the climax. The music plays an important role here. Outside of the monster's cue, it was used to give more life to the silent underwater scenes and definitely served its purpose in that regard. The fate of the Gill-Man was left semi-open-ended in hopes of subsequent movies being made. A pair of sequels did see production, Revenge of the Creature in 1955 and The Creature Walks Among Us in 1956. Since then, continuations or reboots of the franchise have had a long history of never making it to the big screen. This started in the 80s and runs right up to present day. Filmmakers like John Landis, John Carpenter, Ivan Reitman, Guillermo del Toro, and more were all attached to resurrect the creature at different points. Now, James Wan is supposedly developing a new version. We'll see if this latest attempt will finally bring the Gill-Man back to theaters. The original film has, of course, had a lasting impact on culture and influenced countless other works. Sometimes the creature even appears in official and unofficial capacities in these projects. It's hard to miss some of the homages in movies like Steven Spielberg's Jaws, or especially Guillermo del Toro's The Shape of Water. That Oscar winner for Best Picture was directly inspired by del Toro's memories of the Gill-Man's mesmerizing swim with the Kay character. In short, Creature from the Black Lagoon is a legendary motion picture that captured the imaginations of audiences and creatives alike. It's still a fun time that has aged great in most ways. The Gill-Man's design and basic character idea is among the most acclaimed and imitated across all of entertainment. Thanks to the experts on the Blu-ray for all the information. Check out the Walter Culture YouTube channel for more content, and check back for more Juniversal right here. Next time, we fly our way into the 1960s.